Philippines is armed with the Brahmos missiles, protecting its coasts. Vietnam has signed a deal with India for the Brahmos. Indonesia has finalized an agreement. The deal is reported to be in its final stages. While Manila recognized the prowess of this Indian supersonic cruise missile even before its battlefield debut, other ASEAN nations were quick to take note as well. Malaysia, it is also keenly evaluating the air-launched variant of the Brahmos. Singapore and Brunei have also expressed exploratory interest in the missile system. But what do all these nations have in common? It's territorial disputes with China. This Mach-3 supersonic cruise missile seems to be the answer they found for China's 9-line claim in the South China Sea. Brahmos' growing export appeal rests on a combination of performance and its proven combat abilities showcased in Operation Sindoor in May last year. And in just a few hours, Brahmos proved its pinpoint precision in the heat of war, hitting its targets and outfoxing Chinese air defenses all the same. To discuss what is drawing this interest towards the Brahmos missile, I am now being joined on Game Plan by Indian geostrategist and columnist, Professor of Strategic Studies at the Center for Policy Research in New Delhi, Brahma Chellaney. Professor Chellaney, always a pleasure speaking with you. Thanks so much for making time. What's boosting the sales of the Brahmos? Over to you.
Three reasons. First, the weapon's unrivaled technical superiority. Second is a shifting geopolitical landscape in Southeast Asia and globally. And third, China's expansionism in the South China Sea. So these three factors combined are helping India drive sales to countries in Southeast Asia that are on the front lines of Chinese expansionism.
Professor Chellaney, the fact that Philippines signed that deal with India, and this is before anyone else did, this is before the battlefield debut of the Brahmos, this is before anyone knew exactly what it can do and the perfection with which it hits its targets, maneuverable as well. The fact that it sits outside the Western supply chain and carries no NATO-linked political conditions, is that also contributing to the rise in popularity of the Brahmos?
Very much so. In fact, the fact that the Philippines was the first country to import Brahmos from India was very telling, because the Philippines has a mutual defense treaty with the United States. That mutual defense treaty between the Philippines and the US dates back to the early 1950s. So the Philippines is one of the oldest allies, treaty-based allies of the United States. Yet, Philippines sought the Indian Brahmos, and that explained why. There are several reasons why Philippines and now Vietnam and Indonesia is also about to get the Brahmos. And let me explain why these countries are seeking the Brahmos. The first is the need for symmetric deterrence in the South China Sea. You cannot compete with China in terms of major blue water fleets. So what do smaller countries need to do? Because they lack the massive naval budgets required for matching China's blue water navy, they have to rely on asymmetric warfare solution. And the Brahmos offers a central role in asymmetric warfare. And another thing that these smaller countries are seeking to do is to deny China access. The Brahmos can be a very effective anti-access area denial weapon. By deploying the shore-based Brahmos anti-ship missile batteries along their coastlines, these countries can establish highly effective maritime denial zones. It gives them a credible lethal deterrent to protect their exclusive economic zones without needing expensive warships. So it's cost-effective, and it's a solution to the overwhelming power that China brings to the South China Sea.
Professor Chellaney, from ASEAN to the Gulf, from the Eastern Mediterranean to South America, we've seen countries across the world showing more interest. This is apart from the deals that have already been finalized and the deals that are about to be finalized. Let me quickly go over that list. Egypt, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Oman, Cyprus, Brazil, Chile, Argentina, Venezuela. It's a long list. My question, What does it mean for India if this Brahmos and the interest in Brahmos materializes in deals across the world?
Brahmos is the most successful defense export of India in India's post-independence history. India needs several more such success stories. But the Brahmos itself can be a major boost to Indian diplomacy. And there is a reason why even the Middle Eastern countries are lining up to buy Brahmos or expressing interest in buying it. The first is skepticism over their own allies. Evolving shifts in U.S. foreign policy under Trump have led countries in the Persian Gulf as well as countries elsewhere in the Middle East like Egypt to worry about relying solely on Western security arrangements. This has accelerated a push for greater regional self-sufficiency and more autonomous defense postures. The second is India's flexible diplomacy. When Western countries supply weapon systems, they tie these exports to strict political alignments or even to domestic metrics. For example, don't do this at home, don't do that. India doesn't impose conditions of this kind. India positions itself as a neutral, reliable partner, a defense partner that other countries can trust. So, and attached to that is another third element, which is the no strings attached tech sharing. India offers a complete package, providing comprehensive operational training, maintenance networks, and logistical ecosystems to back up the Brahmos without demanding anything in return. It's not demanding you change your foreign policy in any way. It's not demanding that domestic issues, domestic policies that these governments are pursuing should change in any way. But the Americans, for example, or even the Europeans, they attach all kinds of political criteria, political conditions, including human rights, to their defense sales.
Professor Chellaney, thanks so much for sharing your insights. The Brahmos is clearly gaining more traction and attention across the world, as we mentioned, all these regions, and that definitely is going to be noted in power centers across the world as well. Professor Chellaney, pleasure speaking with you, and there will be more to discuss. Would look forward to discussing with you again on Game Plan.